He was the only true god of the 20th century West, and the most rebellious genius in human history. No matter how crazy you imagine him, he was always 100 times more ruthless. In 1913, when Karl, the European steel magnate, was about to divide his family fortune, he was suddenly interrupted by his youngest son, who said, "I don't want a penny. If you want it, I'll give it to you." For a moment, his older brothers and sisters were speechless with shock. After Karl recovered, he asked his youngest son why he felt that way. He spread his hands and said, "I already have everything." The other 8 children's eyes were filled with longing for their enormous inheritance, but their father's eyes remained fixed on his youngest son. He had been a loner since childhood. While others played marbles, he tinkered with sewing machines. While others learned piano, he tinkered with screws and gears. No one could understand why he, with no assets at all, would not even want a penny. And who could have imagined that this youngest son, who gave up his immense wealth, would embark on a path of profound and far-reaching thought for humanity? Later, at his father's insistence, Wittgenstein received a substantial inheritance, but in 1919, he gave it all to his 2 sisters and 1 brother, keeping nothing for himself. Wittgenstein's life was so legendary that even a film could hardly capture it. At the age of 10, he displayed exceptional talent, building a sewing machine from wire and wood. At 19, he successfully launched a man-hot air balloon. At 21, he designed an aircraft engine, which was even adopted by Germany during World War II, and became an essential core concept in the design of helicopters and jet aircraft. Without any unexpected events, he could have become a giant of engineering, but during his time at work, Wittgenstein discovered Russell and Whitehead's Principia Mathematica and read Frege's Foundations of Arithmetic. After reading Frege's work, Wittgenstein found himself deeply fascinated by logic and philosophy. At that moment, he knew he had to take his first steps into philosophy. So, he gave up his brilliant engineering career to seek Frege's advice. From the outset, Frege realized this was a master beyond his control, so he introduced him to Bertrand Russell at Cambridge University. This led to one of the most famous conversations in history. Upon meeting Russell, Wittgenstein asked, "Do you think I'm a fool?" Russell looked at him in confusion. Wittgenstein continued, "If I were a fool, I'd become a pilot. If not, I'd become a philosopher." Russell replied, "Then write down what's on your mind and show it to me." A few days later, Russell received the 3 pages of paper Wittgenstein had sent him and was stunned beyond words. He told Wittgenstein, "Forget about the pilot. You're a born philosopher." News of their conversation spread throughout Cambridge. Upon hearing about it, more visited the Cambridge University campus. Astounded by Wittgenstein's mumbling, he immediately took out a pen and paper and wrote down everything he had said. This information helped Wittgenstein apply for a bachelor's thesis at Cambridge University. Cambridge rejected the proposal without a second thought, arguing that they had never encountered anyone using a notebook as a thesis. Upon hearing this, Wittgenstein uttered another classic line in the history of philosophy: "If this notebook doesn't deserve an exception, I'll go to hell. If it does, and you don't have the guts, then you all should go to hell." Later, Cambridge University unexpectedly made an exception for Wittgenstein, but soon after, Russell felt a sense of inferiority. In just 1 semester, Wittgenstein had not only mastered everything he taught, but had even surpassed the status of teacher and student. Wittgenstein began to challenge Russell's thesis. Frustrated and unable to refute, Russell ultimately conceded to logical philosophy as Wittgenstein's domain, relegating himself to the role of student. "My influence, by comparison, is like a snowball, while his is an avalanche." While Wittgenstein was fully engaged in forging new frontiers in philosophy, World War I broke out. At 25, he could have been exempted from military service, but he resolutely went to the battlefield. Facing death head-on led him to the ultimate enlightenment of existence. After being captured, he wrote his historic masterpiece, the Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, in a prisoner of war camp. It addresses the soul and life, and is considered one of the greatest works in the history of philosophy. After the war ended in 1918, Wittgenstein inherited a substantial family inheritance, but he donated it all and became a teacher in the countryside. He simply wanted to be true to himself and devote himself to education. However, his harsh teaching style failed to gain the support of parents, and he ultimately ended his 6-year teaching career in agony and returned to Cambridge. When Keynes welcomed him, he wrote to his wife, "God has arrived." Wittgenstein's life is a story of a genius fraught with loneliness, madness, and true self-love. He viewed philosophy as a guide to contemporary human life, believing that the questions of human life are the most important. As his epitaph reads, "Tell them I have lived a wonderful life."